and welcome back to the Shamrock Quilt Studio.
Hi, and welcome back to our series we're calling Designing a Quilt from Scratch. And I'm back to show you how far I've gotten or how far I haven't gotten with this project. Since we spoke last, I came down with a nasty virus that has kept me out of the sewing room for over a week. Probably a generous week. So I'm trying to jump back in and catch up with my videos and catch up with my projects. So I'm here today to tell you what I'm doing and what our next steps are, just as a little refresher to what we covered before. Now, this particular project we're working on, it's going to have this background of this black fabric with the little bees printed on it. And the bees are white, kind of an off-white really, a goldish yellow and black stripes on the bees. And like I said, the background is going to be this black, so it's going to be very different from things that I typically do. And then we talked in the last videotape about having a large sunflower on one side of it, and the design is going to be on that right side, coming from the top down and then coming over towards the left. And we talked briefly about whether we're going to put an actual bee on this or not. We're going to leave that till the end and decide towards the end. But the first project, or the first step in this, is deciding what we want it to look like. And we did talk about creating some petals and a center for a large sunflower that's going to sit up on that top right area of the quilt. And as we get a little further into this, I'm going to put this black fabric up on the wall. So I don't know if we'll put it here or somewhere else so we can show you a picture of how it's kind of coming together and that mid-process of trial and error to see what really works. So back to where I am. I have a huge circle for the center of the sunflower. And today I'm going to go through my stash of larger scraps to see if I have something already or if this is something I'm going to need to shop for. And then we're going to talk about the petals for that large sunflower. Now, before we cut out these petals, and I think we've got 4 or 5 of them cut out, and we'll probably need 8 to 9 total. So 3, 4, 5, 6, I've got 7 cut out. So I'm taking this fabric that we talked about in the initial video. This is a kind of a golden yellow, and it's got a little white flower. And I was going to say it's printed on it, but I think actually the yellow is the printed color, so there's just no print there where the flower is. Now, that is something that I prefer. You know, you see a lot of fabrics, especially a white on white tonal, where they've printed that white design on the fabric and that extra dye or paint or I don't know exactly what it is when they're printing fabrics, but that extra layer does make it really hard to hand quilt. So I try to stay away from those if I can. So that's going to make this really nice to work with. And then I'm going to be cutting out today the petal shapes so that I can take these and make little applique pieces to put on our quilt top. And I'll be using my iron and probably some liquid starch to be able to fold those over and create that shape. So today I'm cutting those out of this fabric. And I think I have 1.5 yards or so of that, so we're going to have plenty of that. And I also have this polka dot fabric that I'm going to be using with this. Now, in addition to the large petals, I also want some smaller petals that I can sandwich between the large petal and the circle, the center. And I'm going to look to see if I have anything else that would work better. If I don't, I'm going to use this tiny little polka dot as those center petals. Pardon me. And the reason I want to do that is because this and this are very, very close matches. And I know if you think about a flower, even if you have small flowers, small petals on a flower, they're typically the same color or some little small variation in the color, because sometimes the little petals become big petals. So that's probably what we're going to use unless we find something different. So today I'm looking for greens for stems and flowers, and I'm looking for a very, very dark brown for this. So let's see, we get started through our scrap box and see what we come up with. Now usually this box is all of the fabrics that I have where I have a pretty good bit of the fabric left over. If I just have a little square or two, it goes in a different container. But I am looking for fabrics that I could make several pieces of. Now I have this. That would work for it. That's a possibility. That's a possibility. We'll hold those out for a moment. And I've got a lot of different fabrics in here. Now when we're talking about greens, here we go with the greens. So I'm just going to pull them out, and then we can discuss them and figure out whether they're going to work or not. This is some other fabrics that might work. There's another green. Here's a green. Two orange. That's a good green. Now here's a piece of camo, and it is very dark. It's kind of the kind of hue that I'm looking for this center, but camo is not going to cut it for this. And that's a really thick, almost like outerwear fabric too. Okay, here's some more green. And there's some green, and I think that exhausts what we have in here. So in looking at this, we're not going to be able to use this for the center. It's too red. We'll put that back. I'm not sure I even care for this color combination on this at all. So I'm going to eliminate this one. So there's two possibilities for yellows. And then for the greens, I have these. Now, I think that's too bright. That would just look maybe a little cartoonish for this particular project. It might be if we need some little small sliver of green that we could use that, but I'm thinking maybe not. I'm going to lay it on top just so we can find it if we need to. And then this is much, much too bright for what we're doing here. That also would be really a vibrant green, as with this. So I think we're going to pull those two out, and that's going to leave us with these three greens. Now this one is green, but it kind of plays more like a gray. So we'll eliminate that one as well. So we have these two greens. This one is a long piece, so it would do really well for a stem or several stems maybe. And we could get a couple of 1-inch stems even out of that. It looks like it was a piece of binding at one point. And we've got a pretty good bit of length there. We've got, even at its shortest point, we've got almost 24 inches. So that's definitely a possibility. So we're going to leave that out. I think this one, this is a tone-on-tone green with a floral pattern on it. It's a little muted, and I like that. If we cut those long skinny leaves or some little fatter leaves or even a stem out of that, that would go really well. So that's staying out. Now, on the design, I don't know if you recall, but there was one large sunflower, and then there's another flower kind of like a cone flower, and it's sitting with its little center as a little rounded tuft kind of sitting up, and then the flower petals will be kind of horizontal. And it's possible that we could use these two as the combination for that, with this one being the center and then these being the petals that come off. So we're going to hold those out. So we've got a couple of possibilities for leaves and stems and for the other flower. I think we need some more choices with the greens. Just the fact that I don't have very many greens is a little concerning. I'm going to go back and look in the box for Miss Kelly, because we did have some greens here, and that might be useful as well. Those have not transitioned from the project box into the scrap box yet, so there may be something there. So sorry. And definitely need something with the brown. And if it wasn't here for this size scrap, I don't have it. So we're going to be going shopping maybe for a fat quarter or a small piece of yardage for that brown. It would be nice if it was a dark brown with a little bit of texture, or not texture, but color texture, color modeling, or maybe even a design in it that would somehow trick your mind into thinking it was the seeds in the sunflower. That would be really good. We've got this finished. Getting this circle together for this is going to be quick and easy. And we've got the pieces cut here. So my homework until we meet again is to go ahead and get these petals complete, get as many as we're going to need for that outer layer of petals, and then maybe cut some smaller petals, maybe in this size range. What is that? That's about 3.5, 4 inches, maybe 4 inches with the area that we need. And we might need to do them just a little bit skinnier as well. And that will be out of this fabric. And we want just enough to circle the center of the flower. So I'll be working on petals, both of the petals, and then also shopping for brown fabric and maybe some more greens. Might find some of those in that project box, I don't know. But that's where we are. We haven't gotten very far, and sometimes that's a little disappointing, but in keeping with everything else, this is also a creative project, and I find that I'm more creative when I'm not quite as busy. If I'm really busy and I have multiple projects that I'm thinking about, either what I've done or what I need to do or what I need to buy and what I need to sew, I don't find that my brain has enough space to also be creative. So sometimes I have to just stop and put those other projects away in my brain into storage and think about that. And that's what I've done today, because we need to keep it moving, or we're going to find ourselves 6 months from now in the same place we are now. So we need to make a little bit of progress. I've got homework, and I'm counting on you to keep me accountable for that, so that the next time we meet, we will at least be able to hang this background fabric up and place this larger flower, the circle, and then also the petals on it, to see where we like the placement and how long our stem and our flowers are going to be. And I need to do a little bit of research on the shape of a sunflower leaf so that we get the appropriate leaf shape for that. I hope you've enjoyed this, and it brings some insight into choosing fabrics and all of the steps that are involved with creating a new design. Now, something we haven't talked about yet, and I don't know whether we will or not, but is if you're making this project, beyond making it for yourself, creating it for yourself, if your intent is to share it either through a free share or a pattern sale, you also need to think about how to translate the steps in this process to instructions and drawings and patterns so that someone else can duplicate or use your pattern as a springboard to create their own. And I don't know that we're going to cover that so much, but it is something to think about if you are an aspiring pattern designer, or if, on the other hand, you're creating a work of art that you want to be uniquely your own and not share it with anybody. That's a complete different ball game, isn't it? So, again, I hope you've enjoyed this and it's been helpful to you. And I have a lot of work to do. I've seemed like I have a lot of projects started, a lot of things going on. So let me end this video now and get started with that. And we'll see you probably next month with another video on designing your own quilt. Thanks. We'll see you then. Bye-bye. One more down. We'll get there.